Welcome to this third installment of how to build an LBO model. We'll use the same assumptions as before, mainly the ones in the prior two videos. But today, we'll build the LBO using Claude Code. So you won't even need to open Excel to build this. What you will have to do is use a tool that maybe you're not as familiar with. And it's what's called a terminal. Sometimes it's also referred to as a CLI or a shell. But basically what it is just a window to your computer that you interact with by typing in commands rather than clicking at anything. So you can open programs, make folders, download programs, configure your computer any way you want. It may seem foreign at first, but it's a very powerful tool to get familiar with. To start, we'll go to Claude Code Docs to download Claude Code. And you'll go into the Quick Start menu here and look for Windows if you're using a Windows computer. And you can copy this line of code here. And then what we'll do is we'll paste this into our terminal. And you can use what's called Windows PowerShell. Just type in Windows PowerShell into your Start menu on Windows. And then you can paste in the code that we had copied from Claude Code Docs, and then push just enter and have it execute, and you'll get a feel for your first entry or command that you entered within the terminal. And there you have it. Pretty magical. You've now got Claude Code installed on your computer. Now you may need to enter this path to effectively tell your terminal to open Claude when you type it in. You can simply Google to find this command that I typed in, and then you'll have to exit and reopen the terminal to activate it. And there you have it. You've got Claude Code installed. You can configure it here however you wish. You can just hit enter and then go to your login details. And you've got three different ways to log in. First is your standard subscription, basically what you're interacting with via the browser. Second is via API, very nice if you want to manage costs for specific projects. And third is using third-party platforms, which gives you nice compliance and security guardrails around privacy, data, etc. We'll just use the standard subscription, and when you hit enter, you'll be taken to your browser where you can log in. Now, all the different commands we're running, we can run them directly through this terminal, but a much more user-friendly method is to use what's called a code editor. And VS Code is one of the most popular ones out there, so we'll jump to that. Here's VS Code. I'll show you the simple steps so that you get a feel for it and can start to use this tool. Now you can also use Claude Code through the Claude desktop app, but honestly, I've never used it over there. But there's other good uses of the Claude desktop app, so if you want a video on that, just comment. Here's an important thing to understand about Claude Code. Claude Code uses tokens very quickly, unless you're being efficient with your coding instructions. For a big picture task like the one we're about to do, without any coding, it will eat up a lot of tokens, as you'll see. So you may be wondering, why are you showing me this when we built an LBO model more efficiently in prior versions? Well, two reasons. One, you get a sense of the different tools you can utilize. And two, you want to use this once you've refined the approach with the other tasks. Because what you can then do is take notes on a call, drop them in a folder, and then set Claude to perform the tasks at some point during the day while you go about the rest of your business. So you don't need to be holding Claude's hand throughout to do this. And so to start, and I'll show you here, here's the usage. Remember, you go into your settings and usage, and you will see here that we're at 0% used. And we'll see how this changes as we go about the task. To start the task, what you want to do is when you open and you got to download VS Code and what have you, you want to open it in a specific folder. And the folder we're going to have here is simply here in Downloads folder, I created a Claude Code LBO. You see Claude Code LBO. You go in there and there's 2 files in there. And you can immediately see them through VS Code. It recognizes them. You've got the inputs and you've got the instructions. If we open the inputs file, it's the same file we had before. Here's all of the inputs that we specified for the model, LBO model that we're going to run. And now we close that Excel and we don't really need to open it anymore. We're going to use just these LBO instructions. So if I open the LBO instructions, we specify what Claude will do in running through these. And we say build a leverage buyout model for a company with the assumptions found in the LBO input file. So you don't need to open the input file. It can go into it and read it. And then we say assume below for the debt repayment that all cash after minimum cash balance each year would be used for debt repayment. And then we say please build a file to have formulas and cells where relevant and not just hard-coded values everywhere. If you use Claude Code, it will by default just hard code everything in there, so you've got to tell it, hey, create formulas for me. And then we're going to build the schedules. And we say please stop after each schedule below so that we can confirm the output file is progressing well. Otherwise, you can end up running through this file, using up all of your tokens, and it made a mistake somewhere at the beginning, and now it's just kind of a mess. So we take a step-by-step approach. And because we've already performed the task previously, we kind of know where it tripped up, and we can inform it around things that it should do where it made mistakes before. For example, in this first schedule, sources and uses table, we say, hey, make sure that you place the minimum cash in the uses table, because that cash needs to be accounted for immediately after the transaction close. And so those are the types of instructions we can kind of provide at each schedule. And once we have that set up, then we can just run this entire program directly through that terminal or directly through VS Code, which is what we're about to do. So to do this, let's start our timer as we've done before and see how long this would take for Claude to execute. So first we can just clean this up a little bit, close this pane here, and then you can look up the command to, I'm just using a shortcut here, control / to open up the terminal window immediately. So that same terminal that we had before, you can access it directly here through VS Code. And I'm gonna activate a specific Python environment here that it can work from, but that's outside of the scope of this video. You don't really need to worry about that too much. You can just look it up. And I'll launch Claude by just typing in Claude. And now that it's opened up, I'll say, yes, trust this folder. And I can give it instructions here directly. We'll start up our timer and see how long this task will take for Claude to do it. And there we go. So 27 minutes for it to do this. And we never needed to open Excel. You can do it along the way to make sure that it does it accordingly. But what we're going to now do is check the usage. The usage is at 70%. So it went from 0% all the way to 70%. I'll stop the timer here. So 70% usage, so very intensive, but you, again, never needed to open Excel, and you could just have this run in the background while it was doing this. What you didn't notice is I was reading the Wall Street Journal while this was running during this time. And now that it's complete, we're going to jump over to see the Excel file and compare it to the one that it had built using Claude and Excel as we had done in the prior video. So here on the left is what it just built out, and on the right we have what Claude built out using Claude and Excel as we had done in the prior video. And so if we compare the two, we see that the sources and uses align exactly. If we jump down to the income statement, slightly off, and there's the issue. Claude is not picking up that increase here in terms of the margin expansion. So if we just put that in, we see now that they do align. 4.3, almost exactly right. Let's see what other issues may be happening down here. And then if we go down, we see this is slightly off, and it's probably, again, that change, yep, in net working capital that's taking place. And now we've got them aligning exactly the same. And if we go down, we check the IRR, 18.1, 18.1, and the MOIC 2.2 and 2.2. And so there we go. We've built out on the left-hand side the entire LBO model using Claude Code and not even opening Excel.